Okay,
More room for you?
That's right. Exactly.
this is the Tuesday, November 13th, 2012 meeting of the Raleigh Conservation Commission. It's hereby called to order under the authority of MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Town of Raleigh's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaw. I will now call the roll for attendance. Robert Carpenter is absent. Dave Delmonico.
Present.
Bob Garner.
Here.
Judy Keys.
Here.
Sam Strike is absent. Kurt Turner.
Here.
Doug Watson.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum present.
Anything administrative?
Yes.
Should be.
A number of them. If I may be so presumptuous to submit for authorization and request for payroll aid. And my hours sheet, if you could review that for approval, David.
13th.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there are a couple of administrative items.
Okay. Yeah.
One is the commission has received a letter from Parks and Recreation Committee dated October 31st, 2012, addressed to me, only because I've spoken with them and requested a written request. On behalf of the Raleigh Parks and Recreation Committee, I am requesting that the Conservation Commission allow a small portion of conservation land to be used as part of an access way to recreational parcels at the Bradstreet Farm. We are hoping to begin phase 1 of this project in the spring of 2013. Phase 1 will include the construction of a natural grass Little League field, access walkway, 2 retaining walls, a water well, and an irrigation system on a portion of the land reserved for recreational use. Construction access for this phase will be through the parcel of land reserved for affordable housing development and a small section of the land reserved for open space. There is an existing old access road that will be augmented to make it passable for construction vehicles. At the end of the project, the open space land that was disturbed will be revegetated and restored to its original state. We appreciate your consideration of this request, and it's signed Timothy Southall, who is Vice Chairman, Raleigh Parks and Recreation Committee. I'm sorry I only have one copy of that. I don't know if you want to distribute it, but what it is there's a old farm road or cart path or woods road access through the small portion of hedgerow that separates Bradstreet Farm parcels. You can see the community gardens, and that field is the proposed location for the affordable housing, which is current in the center of the picture, which is currently
This field, right?
yes, under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. The circle highlighted area is where you can make out the opening that is the Woods Road that goes into another field which hadn't really been well maintained and was growing in, but still was predominantly field, but being filled in with sumac and some other bushes and shrubby growth. That's where they wish to have this construction access go through. There are no wetland resource areas directly associated with that Woods Road, and as near as I can tell, there isn't any type of water course or other anticipated drainage impact to them using this as a temporary access for the vehicles to get in for the work.
Is this Pine Grove here?
Pardon me?
Is this Pine Grove right here?
It's the recently acquired parcel that I think they established like soccer fields or something on. I don't know if they consider that part of the school property or how it's
Yeah, I don't
considered.
know.
It is town property, but I think it's, I think it was obtained specifically for recreational use, so I'm not sure that it has an educational designation to it.
Yeah. Makes sense that they'd do it here, so people can access this way.
Well, again, this is just for the construction. There will then be, some of the fill they need to bring in is to establish
Yeah.
the permanent access, which will be behind Pine Grove School.
Right.
Right. No, I don't see any issues with this. Anybody else?
No, the Community Preservation Act Committee, which Dr. Bob and I are on, provided a funding grant for this Phase 1 project that allows them to do this. And it's the first part of 4 or 5 phases in terms of developing for recreation use in the town. So I would support it.
Any other comments? Anything else you want to add, Frank?
A question, what's the access between the highlighted circle and getting away
These-
from, is it right here?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Well, it all depends. If there is a pending sale of the farmhouse and barn or whatever, where the dirt track has been established for the, no, right, yeah, David, you had your finger on it at the last point there. That is the approximate route of where the proposed roadway access that will provide access to the affordable housing
Is
and
that,
then ends in a
the red?
cul-de-sac.
is that what you see in red here, or?
Quite possibly, although, again, you have to
It's a
remember,
cul-de-sac.
yeah, these aren't exactly registered, but yeah, that's if a roadway is built
Right.
for the affordable parcels,
Mhm.
this is where it's supposed to be centered,
Mhm.
give or take 30 or 40 feet
Mhm.
shift either way.
I was just curious whether there was any impacts between here and there, that's all it was.
Well, they, as you see the dirt track that's been established leading to the community gardens, it more than likely will take the form of a dirt track going across the affordable parcel
Mhm.
and then going through that Woods Road opening
Okay.
to get to quote-unquote the recreational parcel where the construction activity is proposed.
I don't see any
If
issues.
if the commission is amenable to that, I would request consideration of a motion granting the request from the Parks and Recreation Committee for temporary construction access with the requirement that restoration and other activities at the direction of the commission be undertaken at the end of their temporary usage of that access.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against?
I'm abstaining because I didn't hear the discussion.
Very good. And so that passes unanimously, and the record should reflect that Sam has arrived.
The only qualification I would have for that is that they make improvements to the road that will eventually, or the area, the parcel of land that will eventually be a road for affordable housing, is that should not be restored to its original usage. But-
Well, your motion only governs the portion of that property that is under Concom custody and care, which is the open space parcel, which is that narrow corridor that's reflected by these property lines. The majority of their access is across, again, the affordable housing
Mhm.
property, which
That's-
currently is under the custody and care of the selectmen, and through the right-of-way, the proposed right-of-way for the town, which again, currently is under the custody and care of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
So
This refers only to the open space.
this only refers to the part that is under our purview.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one question though? This proposed right-of-way, that's not existing?
Correct.
And it's a very approximation.
Because the property's been sold,
Location
and
of it.
I would have thought it was finalized.
Not the location of the road, though, as I understand it.
Yeah, that's just the right-of-way corridor that's proposed. And if any property has been sold, it would be on this side, over here.
Well, it includes the barn.
Yeah, the barns and, yeah, the only boundary that I'm afraid I depicted on here is just this boundary of the roadway corridor.
Okay.
This is somewhat off topic and irrelevant maybe, but there's a letter to the editor of the Daily News this morning about thanking the Elks folks and a whole bunch of contributors in Rowley and outside of Rowley for having a benefit, the proceeds of which went to support activities at Iris Field. And I didn't quite see the connection between all that, but whatever that's worth, I'll throw that out there.
That's the property behind the police station.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I do have some other items, but we're at when we advertise.
Let's start.
What's for the?
So this is the first item. On the agenda, 7:45 item, this is the legal notice of the Rowley Conservation Commission in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act. General Laws 131, Section 40, as amended, and the Town of Rowley Wetlands Protection Bylaw. A public meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 13th, 2012, at 7:45 PM at Room 5, Town Hall Annex, 39 Central Street, to consider a request for determination of applicability application filed by Conrad L. Johnson Jr. for proposed construction of a replacement sewage disposal system, possibly within the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetland at 821 Haverhill Street, map 5, parcel 92 in Rowley.
For the record, my name is Bob Grasso from Engineering Land Services.
Okay, welcome, Bob.
Previously, I filed an RDA to do the soil testing out here
Right.
in the lawn area.
Yep.
We came up with a design which would be a 1,500-gallon holding tank with a pump chamber. We had a slightly high water table there, so we had to elevate the system
Okay.
up a little bit.
Yep.
We're using infiltrator systems, which is about a 15% reduction in size compared to a conventional pipe and stone to limit the amount of buffer work and disturb the area in the lawn area. We're proposing also on the septic system polyline to stop any grading to affect the existing tree line right here. So none of that. It was just basically the lawn area that we're disturbing.
Am I remembering right, this parcel drops off like this, right about the parcel?
It's
end?
very slight. This is 98, and it's 90, these are 1-foot contours, so it's
Yep.
it's really subtle through here. So the wetland's probably 96.
Okay.
Kind of gets down through here.
Mhm.
And it's probably 95.
Well, there was an approximate, like, 1 foot
Yeah. It had-
change
Yeah,
that
just about where the property
appeared to
line-
represent where the
Filled land.
lot may have been filled
Right.
for its
Yeah.
Right.
development as
That's what I remember.
a house lot.
During construction, what they're gonna do is, before they start the new system, they'll pump the existing cesspool that's right located here. They'll pump it and crush it and then fill it in.
Yep.
And the existing pipe that exits the mobile home right now is basically at grade. We're gonna sink that down and have a foot of cover with a tank so that won't freeze. I'm not sure how it's not freezing now, but it's but it's sticking out of the ground as it exits the building.
Now it's your responsibility, so
Yeah.
you're gonna do it right.
Exactly. During the construction, we're proposing a silt sock shown in the pink right here. Brent had noticed when we were out there a pile of debris, mostly stumps, but there were some metal parts in there, maybe from the mobile home or something. Maybe that can just be hand, instead of a machine in there disrupting any trees or anything. It's small, it's basically sumac and some just bushes in there. Nothing major in caliber and trees. Probably just hand pick it out, maybe with a machine, just,
Well, Mr. Pearson
Sure.
called me
Yeah.
today, and I suggested that maybe we consider, show you my memo, which
Okay.
was just recently drafted, that it could potentially be more disturbance to actually run the erosion control around the
Okay.
pile when
You could just
mostly
hand
it's stuff that's leaving and not necessarily excavation
Okay.
of the pile, so that it,
So maybe we can just cut the silt fence. Like
exactly,
right
and
here,
just stay within the
and just
lawn
hand
area.
pick through the area, just, use the teeth of the excavator, just push it around.
Yeah,
It's mostly just rotted stumps and some
yeah.
debris of, trees and stuff like that.
Yep.
That's basically what we're doing. It's serviced by town water. There'll be definitely an improvement to the septic system that's out there right now, which probably is in the water table. So we're getting it out of the water table. It is approved by the Board of Health, and they would like to install this starting tomorrow.
Starting tomorrow, yeah. Have you seen the memo? You probably have not, so why don't you just take a quick look and see the conditions that we're proposing. Make sure that you don't have any questions or concerns.
And I apologize about putting silt fence down there that just popped out
It
because
just-
I was in a rush,
silt
so
sock.
it can be the soft too. and perfectly
I actually
satisfying.
have silt fence on here, but
Yeah.
they can.
Well, it can be straw wattle, it can be
Okay.
bark mulch sock or whatever, but yeah.
Some
just-
type of
Just a
road.
single, I believe the site only needs a single installation.
Yeah, they're not gonna be in there that long, so it's not like you have to dig, a trench for the hay bales or something. It's flat. There's typically no slope to this where they're working.
Just in case a cold front comes through on the same day you're doing it like it did today, because it poured buckets as I was trying to traverse Georgetown to get here.
It did, several times, it rained.
Well, on 3, that could be revised to cut this off, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with any of these.
Yeah, actually up above, Bob, he says, silt fence surrounding the location.
Oh, okay.
Man-made debris should be considered optional. So that's what.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. We're just seeing it too, so.
Basically, it's just gonna still be lawn. They'll loom seed it, and it'll be just a raised low mound. The final grade is 98 through here. It'll be probably a half foot to a foot higher than the existing grade right now.
Anything else you want to add, Brent?
No, the only thing I did want to just bring to the commission's attention, of course, this is a request to determine applicability because the proposed activity isn't really resulting in any type of substantial impact to unaltered buffer zone or bordering vegetated wetlands. Now, and none of the proposed activity is projected to be 25 feet or closer to the delineated edge of bordering vegetated wetlands. So therefore, I'm not, unless the commission wants just a statement or something that 25-foot no cut, no disturb exists, via the bylaw on the property, but isn't a component of this project. Here again, RDAs don't get recorded,
Yeah, right.
so, so it's not like there's gonna be any reflection or anything keying back to this plan, and plus none of the activities are really proposed to be
Right.
within what would be a normal 25-foot no cut, no disturb, so That's why I didn't make any statement about it, and that's why it's not reflected on the plans.
Well, I think, in my view, that's the right approach. If it's not being recorded, then there's no point in that.
Right.
It's just restating an applicable bylaw.
Right, and the bylaw states that by itself, that
Correct.
there could be a 50 to a 25-foot width, no cut, no disturb, so.
So we'd
Okay, I
like to
just
say
wanted-
it when it's recorded, because that's more notice to the prospective buyer.
Yeah.
That's right. And maybe they'll actually notice it. Okay, no, that's fine with me, unless anybody else has any concerns. Commissioners, any questions or concerns about the plan? Is there, I need a, let's see, what do I need a motion to,
Did you say that was gonna be a liner?
Yeah, polyliner, just to stop the grading, instead of 15 feet out, we go 5 feet out and drop it.
Cool.
Say again why you're putting the cover a foot underground?
Foot
above ground.
Foot above ground.
I thought you were gonna put a foot of dirt over.
There's always a foot of, there's a minimum 12 inches to 36 inches of maximum cover over a septic system.
I thought you were talking about the cover.
No, I'm talking the final height of the system, the
Okay.
final, the finished grade.
All right, thanks.
unless there's any other questions, I need a motion to close the hearing and issue a negative determination, option number 3, with the conditions stated in the memorandum. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? The motion carries. Okay. We are all set, and they can start tomorrow.
Take that in the morning.
He can pick it up in the morning. I do have to finish it
Okay.
and complete the paperwork in the morning.
Because he left us that out there.
Well, he wanted to talk to me about where to put the erosion control and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I understand.
It's just that he wants to try to keep the weather, you know, it's starting to get colder. Even after these warm days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, thanks.
Pictures will be found to mostly be on double-sided tonight. And we'll conserve some of
So this is the 8 o'clock item?
Yes, which is
329
administrative.
Central. Yep.
the, you'll be able to read it. from-
So this is the 8 o'clock item. The clock's gonna mess me up at some point. I have to do something like that. This is the 8 o'clock item, however, which is the new request for certificate of compliance, 63-425 for 329 Central Street, map 21, parcel 37. Applicant is SHBC Bank USA, care of Wells Fargo Bank. And I think there's a memo.
There is a memo, yes. The memo.
Yep. And you are,
I'm Mike Dulong. I
Okay.
represent HSBC Bank in Wells Fargo.
all right, welcome, Mike. Have you seen this memo?
I believe.
That's probably the same one.
He sent it
If you've
to
seen
me.
one,
It was
that's it.
emailed.
Yeah, it was emailed. I read it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So if I could just, that's
Sure.
my copy, so thank you. So you want to tell us what we're up to here? Anything you
Well,
want to add to
the property here is being sold.
Okay.
Now, sometime in the past, in 2003 or something, some replacement of wetlands, this is from what I gather, I'm not really on top of all of the knowledge of wetlands, but there was some construction of a garage done, they replicated wetlands, but the former owner never came back to get the certificate,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Now, we're attempting to sell the property, we've got somebody buying the property, and at the last second, this issue came up. So I've worked my darndest to make sure that this is all taken care of. We've got new engineering plans,
Yep.
brought back the wetland scientists, they have checked it all out. There was some debris on the land that was removed fully over the weekend. So
Okay.
now anything within the 100-foot buffer zone is gone. Basically, we're looking for the certificate so that these fine folks could buy the house.
Okay. There's in the memo a discussion about posts. Can you just, using 4x4 posts for the resource area marking?
Yeah, the new
Where are
owners,
those
are they on here?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
You said they were, but I'm
I think
just
they're
thinking-
circled with X's in them.
WP,
No,
WP,
that's-
Wood Post?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, good.
WP Wood Post.
Great,
Wood Post,
okay.
Wood Post.
A
All right,
square
great.
with initials next to it. I initiated that because I noticed, first off, I didn't have really any familiarity with the site since this was prior to my employment in the town. But upon reading the order of conditions, it became apparent that a prescription that resulted in an enforcement order and then the submittal of a notice of intent to rectify an intrusion into bordering vegetated wetlands and disturbance of regulated buffer zone, unless there was some type of protective barrier or signage, and unfortunately, at the time the order was issued, it just called for the planting of some shrubs.
Yep.
And if you flip the photographs over, that sheet over, you can see my photographs. Thank goodness some of the nursery tags were still on the planted high bush blueberries and some of the other shrubs that were planted in there. But obviously, approaching that, walking across this property where, for whatever reason, they continued to mow and intrude into what was supposed to be the 20-foot no cut, no disturb. What you see there before you was not doing it in terms of telling someone where the restricted area was and keeping their landscaping activities out of it.
Right.
So I initiated the conversation with Mr. Dulong about whether consideration could be given to just putting in 3 posts that seemed to be, that would provide effective notification as to where that no-cut area existed. And I've been told that the prospective buyers are amenable to that. Since it's not a requirement of the specific order of conditions, I'm kind of putting that information out to the commission to see if you will consider issuing the certificate of compliance at this point in time and just allowing me to work with the new property owners on establishing the exact positioning and getting those posts installed. I'm sure they would be amenable to doing
Mr.
that
Parisi.
before the end of the year.
Mr. Parisi is amenable to it.
Okay. All right. That seems like a good solution to it.
Well, yes, and I don't feel that it should necessitate holding up the issuance of a certificate of compliance because per the order of conditions, everything with the removal of the debris that was left in the buffer zone, that happened over the weekend, everything else has been appropriately taken care of and the conditions in the order have been met at this point in time.
Where is this property located?
It's,
You know what,
it's just before Lanes and it's
Lanes,
opposite Chickadee Hill.
Oh, yeah.
And
4 lanes going in which direction? Towards town?
towards,
Out of town.
it's
No,
closer
not
to
town.
town than Lanes
Right.
Road.
Okay, this is the one that
And
has the
it
stone
avoids
walls
it.
and everything?
yes, yes. it's
New-
the-
new ones?
Yeah,
Okay.
the stone,
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Anything you want to add, Brent? Or you just?
No, just that the recommendation, if you would consider it, is to issue a complete certificate of compliance with the 2 ongoing conditions listed in the memo.
Any questions by any commissioners? Any concerns? Anything else to add? Members of the public? I think you're here on this. In that case, I need a motion, I think, motion to issue a completed certificate of compliance on the stated
With
conditions, that's all we
ongoing
need.
conditions,
right?
yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Those Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against? Motion carries. You're all set.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another piece of property off the books.
Well, these folks are living in a hotel
Well,
because it came up last minute.
If you wait and not depart, the commission-
Certainly.
I believe the commission will allow me to copy that document and be able to.
Yep. Get these people into their new home.
Stone's house.
It's the what?
No, I was throwing out the stones.
Stationary, so now.
Is that right?
Like I say, I'll drop your card and see what I can do. Thank you, you did a wonderful job for me.
Your lane's moving out of the city.
Oh, is that right?
Somebody told me it was in the town common. Don't know why. Haven't seen it.
Well, I saw him and he said it was.
Job related? Job related possibly?
Stewart's job.
Stuart's job.
Taking in
Mm.
San Francisco.
Well, that'll be a change.
Not much farming in the
Exactly.
room. Who gets the ostrich?
All yours. Who's asking?
Maybe they'll go with.
Peacocks and guinea hens. is that it?
Yeah, well, those.
Yes. Oh,
Those guinea hens are troublesome.
got quite a menagerie there.
Question. What do you do with them in Ashley while you're?
I'm just hoping to get a
Oh, yeah, yeah.
good to take care of them. I'm not sure where that's going.
So they're selling out?
Border collie, raised in trucks. Take the route one, that's something.
The cat's disabled.
Further down on Lime Brook and to the left,
But it's
There you go.
Yeah.
a wild guinea hens all up in those trees.
Really?
Crap on people's. We'll be talking houses.
Very good. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you. Somebody going to be here on the next matter, Fred?
Yes.
Okay. They are present. Somebody is here on this. All right, this is the 810 item, a request for a certificate of compliance 63-230 for 73 Saunders Lane, map 23, parcel 86, lot 11. Stephen Berardino is the applicant. Hi.
Hi, how are you? I'm Katie Durand. I'm from DeRosa Environmental Consulting.
Okay,
Represent
welcome,
Mr.
Katie.
Berardino. There you go. You have all these, so I'll give you a copy
Yep.
anyways. Is that the updated? No. No, okay.
Oh, but if Santa gives me a big plotter, I'd be more than happy to print it out.
Well, I wish we could. I was broke this week, so we're well under. All right, so Mr. Berardino, he was issued an enforcement directive back in May of 2011.
Right.
And so at that point, we teamed up with him and came up with a mitigation plan which consisted of the expansion and monumentation of the no-cut zone, as well as a native species planting plan. So in terms of the expansion and monumentation, we added approximately 275 square feet to the no-cut zone and installed 4 posts with Raleigh Conservation Commission plaques on them to show where the no-cut zone is and avoid any future issues, conservation issues. And then in terms of the plantings, we installed both wetland species and buffer zone species in October of last year. So at this point, they've been in the ground for a little over a year. We've been monitoring them since we installed them, and they are all very well established and doing quite well. Mr. Berardino has assisted us with that monitoring. And so, for that reason, we believe we are in agreement with the proposed plans in terms of the monumentation, the expansion, and the planting plan that was proposed. So we would like to have a certificate of compliance issued if possible. All of the documents are in. The only thing lacking is the signed and stamped plans from Meridian, which will be in the mail tomorrow, and Brent, we sent you a PDF version of that this evening. So with that, what I gave you in your packet, you'll see there's pictures we've been taking over the last year, and then those were the proposed plans, and they are almost exactly as we proposed them, and that's what will be in the mail tomorrow, but the official one. And so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
The plans that were submitted from Meridian, they forgot to turn on the layer with what had been negotiated as being the no-cut, no disturbance zone and monumentation. So that's why the full sheet of plans that is before you, which was submitted to be the record conditions plan, as Meridian calls it, or as-built, as the rest of us call it. Well, the colored areas there, that was during the draft.
Right.
The draft phase, when we were working out a modified configuration to allow soccer playing to occur in the backyard. And so we changed the straight proposed 20-foot offset, which I think the original order of conditions had called for, or 25-foot. We adjusted it and moved it with the area that on one sheet of plans you've got, I think it's shaded in brown. That ended up being the additional area for the shrinkage in width of the green stripe, which was offset from where the delineated BVW line had been when the subdivision had been reviewed and orders of conditions issued back in 1998, I believe. There hadn't been an appreciable movement of the delineated bordering vegetated wetlands line, as well as on this particular lot, it got negatively impacted by the establishment of manicured turf grass. And so therefore, we came out with a proposal that appeared to address all the concerns that had arisen from the lackadaisical construction site management practices that occurred when the subdivision was developed.
What is turf grass?
Lawn.
Fancy word for lawn.
So if the commission would so consider it, I would recommend consideration of a complete certificate of compliance with the ongoing condition as stated, with the contingency that the actual documentation not be released, contingent upon approval of revised plans being received in 10 days. And since I've already got the PDF, I'm sure that
they're
it's
coming
on the way.
Yep.
And
Okay.
it'll be here within days instead of...
Any questions or concerns by commissioners? Seems like a pretty good solution to something that started with a violation. It's always nice to see them work out well. Anybody have anything else to add? And so I would need a motion to issue a completed certificate of compliance on the stated conditions, which is submission of the completed plans within 10 days.
And one ongoing condition.
And the ongoing conditions.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against? And the motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
I'm going to retrieve my one sheet of pictures for the files, and some folks got a much better set of pictures.
All right, you got everything I've got?
Yes.
Frank, would you like another one? I have an extra copy.
No, thanks.
No? Okay.
No, I don't have wallpaper in my bedroom.
Nervous?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just trying to make it worse.
I didn't say where, on the walls.
All right, we're all set on that one. So this is the 8:15 item, also administrative, so there's no legal notice. This is a new matter, the review of a proposed conservation restriction for 237 Dodge Road, map 9, parcel 21, the residences at Rowley Country Club LLC, owned by Windover Properties LLC. Hi.
Hi, good. I was gonna say good morning, I don't think that's appropriate,
No.
is it? Good evening. Jill Mann here, on behalf of the applicant. That's not a good spot for you, is it?
We actually,
Where do
we
you
have
want it?
this,
Can you see it that well there? I mean...
well, let's try it. It's kind of, it's a new rig for us, too.
You are the first user.
Yep.
Ooh. Okay, let's see what the test drive. All
How it
right,
works.
so,
It has the advantage of being visible to
You
the
wanna
camera.
switch spaces?
so-
No, stay. I just, it's best for you to be, so my name is Jill Mann, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Carriage Hines LLC, which is the applicant in connection with a 36-unit townhouse development. Windover had, just to give you a very brief overview, because I don't want to bore you with the details, Windover had gotten approval for a 54-unit subdivision that actually was, again, multifamily. It was for seniors. And when we decided to enter into an agreement with Windover, we changed the plan somewhat to reduce the number of units from 54 to 36, and then to also, Rich Williams is here this evening, who is a site design engineer. Which would also, instead of doing away with the golf course, preserve the golf course, but still with the intent to present to this board a conservation restriction. We're here this evening to present to you that conservation restriction. We had presented it to the planning board a couple of months ago, and we actually were happy that Katrina could come this evening in order to just be privy to whatever is said this evening, and also to offer anything she may have as well to the board. Part of the requirements under the OSRD is to donate the open space either to the town or to have it held in a separate entity, and then to place on that a conservation restriction that this particular commission would be custodian of. Part of that
Can I
requirement...
interrupt just a second? I'm
Of
sorry.
course.
What determines which route you go on that?
Oh, well, because it's a golf course, we will put it into an entity, and then we'll basically give a conservation restriction to this committee.
One of your options was just to give it to the town.
Right, but
Like
not when you have a
regular.
golf course, right? Because it's a private-owned facility. The golf course, you can't give it to the town when it's a golf course, because it's a business enterprise.
So it would be the same space, it just wouldn't.
Exactly, and it's the same, and it contains the same burdens. And basically, when you look at your, by burdens, I mean the same passive recreational uses, to the extent that the golf course were ever to cease existing, then it would default to passive recreation, as would any open space. With regard to why it's held in different ownership, there was, when you actually changed your bylaws in order to try and preserve the golf courses, you did put in that type of ability to have ownership held in a separate entity and then have it operated with the Conservation Commission on that. And what I had done after I spoke to Mr. Bazelak as well as to Katrina O'Leary, I called Irene Del Bono over at the EEOA. She's the person who's responsible for reviewing all of the conservation restrictions and then, basically redlining them. You get it back and she writes all over them. So what I asked her to do was send me some examples, and of course, you're gonna love it, Brent, every one of them, she can't find one. So then she sent me a list of them, though, where I have some recorded, they're quite old, but there is one out in, and I didn't bring them all this evening, because I thought maybe it'd be better to just go through Brent with all of these examples. But one that was a 9-hole golf course, that was an existing 9-hole golf course, that then was placed within a conservation restriction. It's a little different because it was a huge parcel of land, like 80 acres, some of which was untouched by the golf course. This particular open space pretty much is all golf course. And what I had done, and Brent had actually asked me to do, I don't know if I did sufficiently, but I tried. We took a picture of the golf course. And what I did was, you see, I outlined in red the areas that were going to be developed for the residential parcel. This particular piece of land is 88.9 acres. The parcel that will be dedicated for open space is 77 acres. That's what constitutes a golf course. The front 12.5, I might have my numbers off by a little bit, but the 12.5 is residential. It's only a 9-hole golf course, and as you can see, predominantly developed. I mean, there are areas, obviously, in a golf course, you have a tremendous amount of wetland because you use those as your, what are they called when you avoid them? Whatever.
Hazards.
Hazards, thank you. I'm not a real golfer. So you use them as your hazards. And there are places, if I may, I'm just going to put this down in front of you for a minute because it'll be easier to talk about it.
Sure.
Katrina, maybe you want to, I don't know if you want to stand up to look too.
I can see.
So basically what I had done was I had outlined all of the areas, and I tried to color in different colors what were the tees, what were the greens, and then what were the fairways. So light green is basically fairways, dark green is untouched virgin area that happens to be densely populated trees. Obviously, there are pools, and Mr. Baslak actually knows about the pools as well, and then there's clearly still wetland buffer areas, and there's buffer back here. When you look at the project, you'll see, you know, first tee, it fluctuates all over the place. But I can go through each hole and the impact. I mean, it's an already permitted golf course. It's already been, I think this is since the 1960s that's been up and running. But there have been modifications, as all golf courses do. They have to move the greens within the disturbed area. So the greens get moved all the time. The tees get moved all the time. The fairways pretty much stay where they are. So if I can go through it, just to tell you what the impacts are, we're not planning any changes, by the way, we're not touching it. It's staying as is. And part of the term of the conservation restriction is that if we choose to do a change, i.e. we're gonna have to, the tee's gonna have to move somewhere, we can only do that in an area that's already been disturbed. And also, your bylaws, your zoning bylaws require that. So not only do we have to observe that, but we would have to have a filing with this commission because certain of those areas are within your buffer, so subject to your jurisdiction. I'll give you just a brief overview. Hole 1, no impact at all for anything. Hole 2, one of the tees is within probably like outside 75, so 25 feet of the buffer. Hole 3, there's tees that are within the buffer. Yeah, I can go through it like that too. So here's hole 1. Here's the 2. Now when you hit, and you can see the little bit of buffer right here for this tee. So now here's the 3rd tee. So it's basically within, there's the buffer. So the 3rd tee is within the buffer area. It's a dog leg, that term I know. The dog leg, this is also within the buffer. So the whole 3rd hole is. The 4th is outside, and you can see how it comes up, and then the green is a little bit in and a little bit out. It's probably maybe 10 feet in. And then you hit the 5th, and then the 5th is completely without impact. The 6th comes up, there is impact. This is I believe, the 200-foot riverfront, and it's within, let's call it 25 feet. It's outside the 100, but it's still in here. That's the 6th. Here's the 7th tee. The 7th tee plays up. It used to play in here, but we relocated the tee, I apologize, the green to back in this area within the fairway, though still a disturbed area. And again, there's impact here with the 7th tee. There's the green that was outside of the impact. Then when you hit the 8th, you're outside, but when you hit, you're outside as well. And then the 9th is here, and then you drive it home. And the 9th, these areas are obviously, you can tell, they're right within the buffer. And then here, it's outside the buffer. I thought that might be helpful,
The
sure.
8th tee is moved also,
Oh, I
correct?
apologize.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, because the 8th, right, that's the tee. So the 8th tee, the disturbance areas were about
It was
here.
further back,
Yeah, not too much further back, but I can't even show you. Did you like to see where they were?
Do you have it, sure?
Yeah. So, if you will, here's the 7th green.
Yep.
And here's the 8th tee. Right there, and right there.
Yeah, it's actually,
And then these were the range, you know, they have those range tees, so you just,
Mhm.
that's going away, the range is going.
right.
So there's your, here, so if I will, they were like down here.
Right. Okay.
So basically, that, I just wanted to give you an overview. And obviously, what the critical thing is when I talked to Irene as well, was explain why this is important to the town. And what Ms. O'Leary had said is, you know, we need to really reflect not only the conservation issues, i.e. the preservation of certain areas within the jurisdiction, but also viewscapes, habitat. I mean, habitat sometimes is upland that's not within the buffer zones that's wonderful to keep. This particular property only has, in the back, 9.5 acres of wetland. The rest of it's upland. So, you know, it's a pretty good area to preserve. And whether it's preserved as a golf course, which is, you know, I mean, it's not passive recreation by any stretch of the imagination, but it's recreation nonetheless. It's beneficial to a community. So what would be protected, obviously, would be any of the areas that are presently undisturbed. So these areas, we can't do anything to. And the reason is because that's what we're not entitled to do under the zoning bylaw. I suppose you could always go and ask for the permission to do something, but once it's placed in the CR, you cannot, unless you go in before and you go through the whole process, which is, I mean, I think you probably know, it's almost impossible to do. The only thing that Ms. Obono had told me that was important to do is she said, look, basically take the base conservation restriction that they have, which I did, and I presented to you. They have so many different forms, that just happens to be one form. Take the base form, and then when you have activities that are accepted for prohibition, which is also within the body of that document, you obviously accept the things that a golf course has to do, which are maintenance, and then you have to allow motorized vehicles to the extent they're necessary for maintenance, and to access the property, and obviously golf carts which access over those trails. And we do show the trails, although they're difficult, I apologize to see, but you can see them, you can kind of see them, right?
Okay.
So,
Do any of those trails link to off-site trails?
no, there's no off-site activity at all, none. I mean, I think they're all, well, they weren't entitled to be because it was all one ownership. So they can't really link to things they don't own, and there isn't any easement, there aren't any easements out here, so they're just within the body of it. So what we have basically proposed, and we have discussed this with the Conservation Commission, is it's an already existing golf course. They want us to also open it to the public. And our initial reaction was, oh my gosh, the liability. But then upon doing some research, we did determine that there isn't liability when you open and you don't charge a fee. So as a result of that, my client, the applicant, said, okay, you know what, we'll open it to the public, but you can only open it to the public to the extent the profit enterprise, which is, it's a lease. We don't run this. It's leased to a separate entity who does run the golf course, and it's the same person who does it now. When he's closed and when the golf course isn't able to service its public, then people can go and walk on the golf cart paths. You know, people have asked, what about cross-country skiing? We're not necessarily advocating that because we don't want them doing it on the greens. Greens cost anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 to replicate if somebody does enough damage to them. We don't really want somebody to do that. But if somebody wants to take their bikes and ride on the paths, if somebody were even cross-country skiing and they were going down the paths, nobody's going to stop them. You know, people can walk. Fine. You know, when the course is closed, we're going to allow it to be open, and we'll post as we noted in the plan. There was also some conversation, and always what is a big issue is, well, why can't you do like the private courses do it? You know, close in November and open in April. Well, because we don't have anybody paying huge membership fees. All we have are greens fees. So public golf courses just don't do that. They open. And they stay open. It's just like last year. If you're a golfer, you were golfing in January at times. And actually, sometimes even in February. You know, who knows? And that's why there isn't a set time period with regard to this particular property. Some other things that I spoke about with Mr. Bono and Mr. Bazak and Ms. O'Leary were the fact that there's a clubhouse up front. That's staying. We are taking away the restaurant. The restaurant will no longer be functioning, so that particular enterprise, if you will, is gone. The only thing that will remain is the clubhouse. And what we're proposing to do presently is merely, there's like a little patio out on it. We're proposing to put an overhang so that if you go out there, no expansion of the footprint right now, but an overhang, which we have on our plans. Excuse me. And in the future, what we would like to be able to do are two things. One would be to expand the footprint of the clubhouse to the extent membership can be driven up by the particular enterprise, because the applicant is proposing to help him maintain better the golf course and to maybe make it nicer so that people will want to play more at this golf course. So we would like the ability to expand the clubhouse by 75% of its current size. And that, we understand, has to be permitted in terms of the CR, but it can be permitted. The other thing we would like to do is the ability to connect. If this land were to be for sale, this land, or if somebody wanted to just make a larger golf course, an 18-hole golf course, we're not asking to be able to disturb any of the areas that aren't already disturbed, but what we would ask this commission to allow is to allow this to be absorbed into another property where they can actually create more holes, go to an 18-hole golf course, basically. And we do have to ask that permission in the CR because it's unclear whether or not that's something that would be permitted. And potentially at that point, I think to address your concern, Mr. Turner, is we may be able to actually then connect and have off-site trails because there would be the access to properties not presently owned by the applicant.
So where's the primary public access contemplated? Is it down by the clubhouse?
Yes. So basically, Rich,
Yeah.
when we have our access, I have the actual small plans.
Right here. There's, the
Gray
parking lot
space
comes
is
in,
the parking lot?
gray space is the parking lot, there's
Yeah.
no spaces in front of this area, this is the drop-off for the clubhouse,
Yep,
so people will be able to access from this location.
okay. And the parking lot's staying put?
Parking lot's staying put, the parking lot is shrinking in size. We're taking a few of this area's coming out of the parking lot going into the subdivision.
Okay, so the existing parking lot's bigger than what you're showing
Existing
there?
parking lot is that shape.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, it's
We're
much
taking
bigger.
that corner
Just
out
the corner of it, okay.
and having visitor spaces for the residential development.
So is the parking lot gonna be available for public access for
When
cars
it's
to park?
closed, yes.
When it's closed,
Absolutely,
yeah.
yeah.
And otherwise for golfers?
Right.
That's the concept.
Mhm.
When do you contemplate it might be closed?
I know. Typically,
And the
they
lack
really
of-
do close in December, and they open in March. I mean, I apologize, in April. So usually you have December, January, February, March, because you have snow cover. The second the snow cover, the golf play is over. You can't find white on white. But if it's a year like last year, they stay open. They don't allow the golf course to rest like they do in a public scenario. They just don't.
You mean in a private scenario?
Yes, I apologize backwards. Yeah, the
Yeah.
public does not.
One of the things that troubles me.
I have a full set plan, Joe.
Oh, you know what, I got this out, when we did this.
I mean, these golf courses typically open pretty early in the day. And they golf
Oh,
right
yeah.
up until dusk.
They do.
And I assume being open would include the concept of darkness. I mean, you aren't going to allow, you don't contemplate people going out on night hunts or salamander hunts or things in the evening here.
Bike rides?
You know, we never thought of that, but I do have, they do pesticide and herbicide application, and I have that here, so you really don't want anybody out there.
No, I don't think you would want people out in the dark.
No,
It's not lighted.
it's not
These are-
safe.
Well, it's not lighted, so people
No,
are
it
not
is
gonna know
not
where they're
lighted,
going.
but some people like to go out with those things on their heads when they do the salamander hunts, because I know that that's not uncommon. But what I did bring for you, you had asked me to bring some additional information with regard to the use of the golf course and how they maintained it and what types of applications they have. So in your package, I believe what Mr. Bazak gave you was I think I gave you that. Did I give that one in the package? The golf maintenance, when I gave you the hard copies?
Actually, I think so.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
What I also did was,
Yeah.
you have to have, because it's a commercial property, unlike residential, which you can, you can spread just about anything. Because because it's a commercial property, you have to have a licensed applier for any types of pesticides and herbicides. And clearly, it's a golf course, they spread them. I mean, they have to in order to maintain green. So I just wanted to give you that. So I guess the answer to your question, the very short answer is no, no night access.
What I was getting at is, indirectly, is the fact that anybody interested in walking these trails is not gonna find out until they drive in and see a sign posted there. And I'm wondering if it's possible to have a website notification of when, in addition to sign posting, as to when it would be open or closed.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, like putting
Save
it,
people from driving an hour away and getting there and not having it
I
open.
mean, absolutely, because I would assume that they post on their website when they're open so that people can go. So sure, we can do that without doubt. Yeah.
No, I think there's, I'm just thinking of this, this is a, I mean, what we're talking about here, what we're being asked to approve is a CR.
Yes.
They don't have to feature public access to be a CR. There's
Right.
value to this from our perspective, the way I would look at this, whether or not there is public access. The more public access, the better. But even a CR, even with no public access, still has value from a conservation perspective. So, you know, I was thinking that I was concerned that there really isn't a lot of meaningful public access, but I'm not sure that's really the question that we want to be asking here.
No.
It might be a question the planning board wants to ask in terms of their OSRD.
Yeah, I think that what we've provided them, I mean, at this point, they seem to be happy with us giving them everything we possibly can with regard to public access. I mean, because the main purpose of this truly is a golf course. I mean, that is,
Right.
when it was open space, the main purpose was public access. The main purpose really is a golf course with any kind of ancillary public access that can be provided. What a bonus.
Right, but our main purpose is in trying to permanently preserve open land, or in this case,
Absolutely.
heavily improved open land, but open nevertheless, and it has conservation value even in its present state.
Exactly, and that's what.
Right, and I think the discussion earlier where I think this man was quoting the figure of 9 acres of
9.5,
regulated
yeah.
wetland resource areas that haven't been altered in regard to this, so the fact that there's a smidgen of public access is kind of proportional to, you know, the resource areas that are there, but we're really looking at the resource areas, the landscape, that type of
The viewscapes.
aspect to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just the open land preserved in Raleigh.
yeah, and the fact that it does have a component of both unaltered uplands as well as unaltered wetland resource areas actually, again, provides more value to it since you're not just looking at regulated wetland resource areas to be
Right.
quote-unquote preserved, because obviously resource areas need to have associated uplands. We've got all sorts of wildlife whose their habitat requirements are not solely focused and dependent upon wetlands, but wetlands may perform a critical function at certain times of their life cycle, but then they also need uplands.
Right, like this is actually probably beautiful. I would assume that there's tons of habitat in this area, tons of wildlife.
Could I add to that I think just from reading through the requirements for the conservation restriction, the state stresses that it isn't necessarily what is valuable to maybe the definition from the Conservation Commission, but it's what is valuable and what the town has proved they feel is valuable. And just the overwhelming vote when the town changed at town meeting in 2005, I think it was like 94-8, they voted in favor of allowing golf courses to be used in their open space residential
Correct.
developments.
Yeah.
And in our open space and recreation plan, when we haven't pinpointed exactly things that pertain to this, but we know the town values this as open space, even if it isn't fragile.
And even if it isn't very open to the public, it still
Right.
has,
And,
that's
and,
my sense, is it
and I
still
have to
has
add,
value
too,
to our town.
It's open to the public. They have to pay to, you know.
That's true too.
That's
Yeah.
still the public.
Yes, you're right, that's right. That's right, and the typical player on this course is going to be somebody from Rowley, as often as not, because this is a 9-hole course.
Right.
This isn't a destination golf course, so
No,
it's really a community resource.
Right.
Right.
And as well, when I spoke to Irene, and actually, I think Mr. Bazak noticed it, that in the conservation restriction, I did not specifically say, or maybe it was, I can't remember, that when the golf course goes away, that if it goes away, and there's 2 years of abandonment, it automatically
Mhm.
reverts to passive space. It's not like this can be redeveloped as another purpose.
Correct.
It cannot. I mean, it cannot. And that was something actually that Irene Del Bono thought was important. I just keep bringing her up because she's the one we have to submit this to.
At the state level,
Yes.
correct, yes.
She's
Yep.
also very knowledgeable, and
Oh, gosh,
I've
was
had
she
the
ever.
opportunity of interacting with her before, and she's a very, very beneficial person to have a conversation to, because she isn't just reactive. to-
No, not at all. She's actually a positive
She's very
influence.
forthcoming
Yeah.
and contributes a lot of information beyond what you may have thought about asking specifically, so.
Oh, without a doubt. And she did say that, you know, no matter what the outcome was, that when I got back the conservation restriction, it would have red all over it, and I just would have to feel okay with that. I laughed. I was like, that's okay.
So where do you stand with planning at this point?
Well-
How far along in your process are you?
I will respond, and then Katrina may want to. Do you want to hear from Katrina instead?
Either one of you.
I mean,
I'm
at
sure
this
you both
point,
know them.
we have gone through the plans and created what we would consider to be the final concept plan with roadways and all the development shown and all changes to the site. We have gone through a review process with the chief of fire department and have reviewed comments with the water department and finalized with both of those departments. We have agreed with the comments from the electric light department, and for the most part, not even for the most part, have made all of the changes requested by the DPW. We're in the process of then, once this is approved, we'll go before Board of Health. We have no jurisdictional wetlands, so that's why you haven't received anything from us, because we're not in any impact zone, other than, you know, later on we will. So at this point, our plans are done. Where we are now is to actually finalize the CR. When we had given it to them a few months ago, I think that people didn't really focus well on it because it's a brand new type of CR, and we weren't really sure how to go about it. And then when, you know, we talked to Brent and we talked to Katrina, and it was like, you know, you need to go before the Conservation Commission. We, as the applicants, weren't sure if the process was that you would give comments to Brent, and Brent would give them to Katrina, and then I would get. I had no idea how to work this. I'd never done this without being before commission before. So that's why you're getting it tonight. We're asking for your input. So we believe that on November 28th, when we will appear before the planning board, they will evaluate the plan and then look at, okay, what do we want? How are we going to proceed with our conservation restriction? Hopefully we'll have additional comments from you that we can integrate, because I did take those comments that Brent had made and work them through the plan. But I wasn't able to, I mean, I got his comments like 5 o'clock, and that was our fault. 5 o'clock the night before, that night, gave them to the commission. The board couldn't read them. So the CR really is the open matter that's outstanding. But, and then, I mean, please, I don't.
And then just the questions about process.
Yep.
And we have sent a request for another opinion from Judy today.
Good.
So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll hear back from her, and we'll be able to put all those issues to bed.
An opinion from Judy for what purpose?
Yeah.
Well, there's a
CR
question
or
on
not the CR?
the process. They feel as if, or I guess there's case law to back up that the planning board cannot condition their approval on another board's approval. And
Well,
we know that
Third
as far
party
as-
independent, not in town. They can, but not outside. You can't
Well,
condition on
it's
third
even
parties.
another board in town too, from the
Yeah.
case law I've read,
It's issue.
if it's an issue of substance.
Yeah.
And this is an issue of substance. And so what you would, I don't know if you want to explain it, what they would like to do is propose kind of a backup plan.
So we have no issue with the CR. It's fine, done. We have no problem in placing this in permanent restriction for recreation. My point was, if they give me an opinion that says, if they give me a decision that says it's subject to you getting approval of the CR by the EEOA, well, I think Irene's a very reasonable person. My guess is she's going to review this, she's going to make some tweaks, we're going to change it, we're going to give it back to her, and she's going to approve it. But what happens if she doesn't? So I said, let's put on a perpetual restriction that I can craft, that we can make perpetual, that wouldn't be a CR as a backup plan, but knowing full well that no matter what, I'm going to go forward with the CR. So I just don't want this commission to think for 1 second I'm trying not to put a conservation restriction on here. I'll put one on however I can and whatever I can do. But my point is A committee can't say, okay, in order to get this approved, even though you comply with every single solitary one of our standards, and you can give me your perpetual restriction, I'm gonna make you do it with this party here, and if that party doesn't agree, you can't have the
Well,
condition, you know, that's not,
I'd be interested to what Judy says to that, because I could swear we've done that before.
All our orders of conditions that deal with projects that have a requirement of a conservation restriction always have a condition within the issued order that requires and puts a certain time prior to issuance of building permits or prior to the request for a complete certificate of compliance. There shall be recorded a conservation restriction approved by the state.
my guess is it's because you
'Cause
have
I
an
don't cite the
associated
chapter
requirement
stuff,
in a statute
you know,
or a
184.
bylaw. You don't have that. So your bylaw merely states you have to have perpetual restriction, nothing about have to get a conservation restriction at 184 approved. That's why. And I think, were you doing Habitat? Was it under the Habitat? Is that when you did your
No,
CRs?
Well, that's always a
Necessarily.
component of what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
No,
We're
I
always
mean, you
looking-
need, like, when you have to go to the Habitat because you have
No, not natural
species?
heritage, if that's what you're
Okay,
referring
yeah,
to.
the division?
No, not a requirement of natural heritage.
I just am trying to make sure that you don't get held up, but that we don't get rushed. And the,
But we've also issued the orders prior to consummating
the CR
the
itself.
editing
yeah.
and discussion of the verbiage
Oh,
within a CR
I have
document.
no problem
So-
not rushing anybody, as long as, you know, we have a bet. We can take as long as it takes to do a CR. That's not our
Well,
problem.
That's what I'm thinking of, is, and we have on occasion taken months, if not years,
Yeah,
to
that's-
finalize CRs, or people who
Depending
are applying
upon
with
the
us.
applicant's enthusiasm.
Depending
for
upon the
talking.
applicant's enthusiasm, exactly. 10 years sticks in my mind for one.
Oh, God.
Oh, no, that was, no.
That was a special case.
Yeah,
I
that
know.
was, that had,
See, for us, if we
But-
could get a decision that said, look, you have to get a CR, Jill, you
Oh.
have to work with them, you have to do this.
Yep.
And we say, that's fine, but as a backup plan, if for some reason
But-
somebody
but
doesn't do
actually,
it, we'll
see,
put it in.
again, we aren't technically,
No, you
we're
aren't.
not approving the conservation restriction.
No.
What we do is perform the service of usually being, this body gets named as the grantee.
Mhm.
And part of the requirement for the Chapter 184 thing is municipal certification that not only includes a declaration of what the values are perceived to be of the conservation restriction, but also a field inspection of the property and usually consummation, and we become the holders usually of the baseline report,
Right.
and issue a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, because usually there's a signature page for both the Conservation Commission and the Board of Selectmen.
It's required by statute.
Yeah, for municipal approval. So we're actually not approving the CR, we're just functioning as part of the process for municipal approval.
Mhm.
Well, I
You
disagree
kinda
with that
do-
to
You
some
kind of do
extent.
approve it, but,
We need to be comfortable with the CR.
oh, yeah.
Oh, right, there wasn't anything there that said we'd be uncomfortable with it,
I
it just
know,
said
but
we're part of the
it-
process.
Approving is a term that seems a little broad to me, but I like what we're doing here. I agree with what Doug said with regard to this being a desirable land situation from an overall standpoint, and I'd be glad to see this go through, particularly since there is a lot of neighbors in the vicinity that are very, very strongly interested in seeing this golf course be retained as open space. But there are some problematic areas with regard to the CR that I think shouldn't take a lot of doing to clarify and to clean up and hopefully be approvable by the selectmen and the town council and the state person. One concern, I don't know if this is a time to get into it, but
Yeah, absolutely, please feel free.
it appears to, this is a rather strong word, but emasculate the Conservation Commission's rights and responsibilities under the law.
Are you talking under the?
What page?
Well, just a couple of specifics here. On page 6, legal remedies of the grantee, which would be us. Legal and injunctive relief, it says the rights hereby granted shall include the right to enforce this conservation restriction by appropriate legal proceedings and to obtain injunctive and other equitable relief against any violations, including without limitation, relief requiring restoration of the restricted area to its condition before the time of the injury complained of. It being agreed that the grantee may have no adequate remedy at law. What I am proposing is that in the second line of that, where it says by appropriate legal proceedings, that we insert the words "and administrative."
What section are you
In
on?
administrative?
Page 6 down the bottom of the page,
Okay.
under legal and
Legal-
injunctive relief.
Number
Section
4A.
4A, yes, section 4A.
And administrative?
By appropriate legal and administrative proceedings, because what we do here, we're an administrative body, and we have responsibility for the Wetlands Protection Act, the town bylaw, as well as with regard to, what's the other thing, Brent?
I'm sorry, stormwater.
Stormwater.
No, I think that's a reasonable request.
And I don't see that does substantial damage, I don't think it hurts anything, but,
I think it ensures your ability to protect your rights.
I mean, we need to issue enforcement
I don't.
orders, which aren't the same thing as injunctions.
Nope.
And on the next page, I'd add to that thought
Sure.
the lead-in sentence where it says, by its acceptance of this conservation restriction, grantee does not undertake any liability or obligation relating to the condition of the restricted area. I'd like to add something to the effect, nor limit its administrative responsibilities under the Wetland Protection Act, town bylaw, and stormwater management requirements. And we're limited under this to looking at things during reasonable, I forget where the language, at reasonable times and in a reasonable manner on page 8. Now that's rather vague. And if you've got a sign up that says it's closed, that cannot apply to the Conservation Commission agent or members of the Conservation Commission.
I agree. I wonder how we can do it. It's because of the golf course aspect, because you wouldn't want even a commission member just walking on the golf course.
Unless he was unless he's a
A
golfer.
golfer.
Yeah.
Well, you can always,
I wonder-
pay a greens.
Yeah, I mean,
pay a fee,
and you would be
there you
welcome
are.
to go, you know, at any point in time. You just wouldn't want anybody to get hurt. I just have to think, yeah, I can think about and work on that, and I'll look at other conservation restrictions with regard to golf courses and see what they put in. This I got from Turner Hill.
Okay.
See about defining access better, defining access rights.
Access for the
For the,
grantee.
oh yeah, for the grantee.
Grantee.
I mean, it's something, if some manager of the golf course is going out and putting an excavator in there and doing something, joining up those water bodies, I mean, that,
You have the right to issue an enforcement order.
we need to, somebody alerts us, we need to be able to go in and do that.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think the reasonable times and in a reasonable manner is usually interpreted, with my experience being the hours of operation and for the reasonable times and the reasonable manner, usually in consultation with with whoever the manager or operator is of the facility. I mean, we have to do that anyway, because otherwise anything we see as evidence is fruit of the forbidden tree if we don't have the right to be on the property to view that.
Oh, this gives you the unlimited right. I mean, you really have the right. I could never, this is not private property in that sense of the word. At any time you see something, you're available to essentially give testimony. I can't restrict that because of the conservation restriction. And I wish I'll find where it says that. But I think it's actually even under chapter 84. But by no means can I stop you.
And even if you put in parentheses, normal operating hours,
I could do
that might solve that.
I'm also gonna look and see what they've done before in other, golf courses, just that way I can verify. I mean, Brent is not incorrect that people do use reasonable a lot, but I can probably better define it, and I'll try.
I'd be comfortable with just doing that, but
Okay.
I seriously doubt you'll find anything in other places.
Yeah, I always try.
Appreciate
You're probably
the effort.
right.
Just to
Please.
Well, it's a backup footnote to what we were talking about, my research into Haverhill
Yes.
with a number of golf courses. most all of them utilized deed restrictions.
Yep.
They didn't actually, now whether that has to do with the timing of it. I
No
didn't-
conservation restrictions?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's,
No, but most of the ones that our agent was aware of have all been in place for upwards of two decades
There are ways
or
to-
more, so I'm
there are
not
ways to
sure that they were
restrict it.
really, at that time period, that
Mm.
conservation restrictions were more
Involved,
well-known
kind of.
or
Yeah.
developed as they have been.
I'm not even sure when that law in its present form went into existence, I don't know.
you know, I don't know, I know it got beefed
The
up when they
early-
redid the
Right.
habitat area about, what, was that 6 years ago?
The early
It wasn't
date-
that long ago, yeah.
The handbook the state produced with a grant has a date of 1991
Okay.
on it, so.
It's 2 decades, huh?
Yeah, I think those,
When you change the mapping, is that what you're talking about?
When did they change the mapping? It's like
Yeah, it was about 5 years.
5 years, yeah, that's, but I know they beefed up the Sierra language then, but it probably was from the early 90s, late 80s. It had to be after the Wetland Protection Act, probably.
Yeah, well, this could just be reflective of what Haverhill's planning board chose to do at, at whatever times
Yeah, you
was
can never
applicable,
tell.
but I just wanted to let you know that I was trying to find some other examples, and
I-
I knew there was protected open
And I
space, because I got it
understood.
right in my backyard, but it's,
I know.
but it's by deed covenants. So.
And we want to grant the conservation restriction. I mean, obviously, we thought it would be great to keep the golf course too, and we have absolutely no problem maintaining it and committing to it. And what we had done was try to take some of your comments, like, we identified the resource areas. I don't really, we're gonna, I guess I wanted to ask you one question, Brent. And it's good that Richie's here. When you say you want the baseline plan, and I was gonna give you this as our baseline plan, because I don't really, what I've done in the past is truly given somebody a plan that shows, here, I don't know what to do for a golf course plan, other than say, here's the golf course, this is what's not touched, this is what is touched, and
That's a good question.
I
This
really
isn't-
don't know.
This isn't really like other CRs, is it?
No.
Where you need an
Well, but this-
inventory of the resources.
Well, but here again, I mean, we should.
and I
I
tried to
I
do
mean,
it.
we have them, and we have them on the plan.
Yeah, and I did
for the
list
most
them,
part.
Well,
you
that's what
gave
I-
them to me.
Well, but part of the thing is to work a little better on your recitation under section 2 purposes and A, preservation of conservation values. Right now, the copy of the guide we got has only got 2 points. And I think there's too much of a conglomeration under those 2 points that I think other CRs that I've been exposed to here in town have done a different recitation and come out with more than just 2 points in terms of some of the values and
We
the
have no- I mean-
resources. But, so again,
Yeah, what's
again,
what you
that's
want,
just
yeah.
tweaking how things are categorized and listed here. But a baseline report, and actually Chris Sparagus should be familiar with the one that was put together for the village at West Ox Pasture. That's a requirement where you establish some photo points. You take photos of the 4 compass directions, so you show what the condition of the property is, and you key that in. You have the deed, and you have an affidavit attesting to the person who collected the digital images, so that you've got actual photographs that show you what things look like at the time that the CR is put in place. The state considers that invaluable for the grantee and the grantor to both use as being able then to have a record, a visual record of what the landscape looked like. So if something does happen, you then have the ability
Control your rights.
to either respond to it if it's either a violation problem, or actually in a case like this, it might more be storm damage or something else where you have to engage in some type of restoration effort. And if you've got a visual record, even though it doesn't answer everything you'd want to know, still a picture is worth 1,000 words, and the state
Right.
has adopted that, and this commission has adopted it
Okay.
as a principle that we look to have a baseline report put together.
My thoughts on the baseline report would be to have this plan, have an orthophoto, which are readily available, or not an orthophoto, but an aerial photo with the property lines on them. And we could take photos from tee, from green, so that you can see the whole golf course. I mean, 18 photographs would photograph most of it. I guess where you have a dog leg, you might have to take more. But that would get you all the developed areas.
What you wanted, what are you saying is for all directions from each tee?
You actually do it at boundary points, because usually what the concern is intrusion from other abutting properties.
Right, that too. So it's not
Especially
that
where
big.
you have unaltered areas. And we've had Boy Scouts do it for
Some of
their
them we're gonna need a
service
boat,
project.
you know, some of them we need a boat because,
Yes, well.
you know, you're not gonna be able to stand there and take a picture.
But so,
And no one's gonna be intruding on it, but, I think
You
that,
would be surprised you have an abutter that has an active forestry operation every so often. So I really would caution you on making statements like that, because Hev Chainsaw, they don't stop and turn off at boundary lines in the woods, because usually they don't know where the boundary lines are in the woods.
So let's stop at this one because it's on a waterway, but.
Yeah.
no, that's my point, with the aerial photo, you get,
Yep.
I mean, you get the picture, and it shows what's developed and what's not developed in relation to the lot lines, and we can augment it with photos. But I think we've got some pretty good information here to produce a baseline report.
Oh, yeah.
So then
Not
if-
doubting that, I'm just saying some of
I just want to make
some of
sure,
it
because I
needs
want to
to
give
be
you what you
once in a
need.
while.
So if we give you this plan, right, because this shows the actual resource areas, we give you the satellite picture, and then we augment that to the extent necessary with the on-ground photos, that's our baseline.
I'll send you documentation that is produced for guidance and utilized by the state.
I know,
I'm not capable of reciting it chapter and verse at this point in
I
time.
think that's the bulk of
in
it,
this
but there
setting,
might be
but
some more.
yeah.
So it's not,
I've done.
It's not a
Okay.
complicated.
it's not terribly complicated.
See, I didn't know how to
especially
do it with
when you have
this.
this stuff.
Well, that's why I didn't know if what was even better for you than is to see this.
Yeah.
to-
Yeah, my
It's
partner and I have
different
done, we did them for Said's development over at Meeting House, and we did it for Ox Pasture, so we're familiar.
You know what you're doing, yeah. Then this one's different because it's highly developed,
Yeah.
as CRs go. It's, can I just return to what we were talking about the process? If I understand what Judy Pickett's going to be considering, it's whether the planning board can condition their OSRD final approval on our approval. And the reason that you have a concern about it is that that's a substantive sort of approval by another board. I wonder if a solution to that would be that it's conditioned upon our approval as to form of the CR. Because it seems to me from this discussion that we really are all on very much the same page substantively. We don't have any problems with your CR. You don't have any problems with our conditions. What we haven't agreed on is the exact language, the baseline report, the form. And I think that might take it out of the problem if we did that. Maybe, yeah, go ahead.
What if the state still doesn't approve it?
Which is highly
Then
unlikely.
where are they? You know, or where are we? We
Approve the CR.
permitted a project
Yeah.
with no conservation restriction.
Presumably, there would be a specific reason or two why, and that we'd have to address that when it happens.
I guess
Yeah, I mean,
I
they're
don't
just
know
gonna
that the chances
unilaterally.
of the state denying a conservation restriction, what are the chances? Do they always send it back to be modified?
And send it for review.
Oh,
Yeah.
they always mark it up,
Yeah.
but we have actually never had an instance except in one very, very different, unrelated case.
Well, then the state approving it, the process is more like a site plan approval
No,
than a special permit. They
site plan
have to
approval
approve
cannot,
it.
yeah, site plan approval cannot be denied, a CR can. Site plan approval cannot be denied, it can only be conditioned. but a CR can be done. Yeah, again, I have no problem doing, approving just to form, absolutely not an issue.
And because they're not gonna disapprove it as
You
to
know what I mean?
substance, because it,
I would-
it's more than the alternative, there's.
It's either it or all or, yeah.
But the issue is that it won't be approved when we go to close on the property.
That's my
understand
big
that.
issue.
It won't be
That's the
approved, so
Understood.
the problem is that the bank is likely to look at it and say
You have a condition, we're not
You have a
doing it until it's
condition.
done.
Mhm.
that we don't know, it's not, hasn't been fulfilled, and we don't know in the form that it's in that it could be. But if we had a backup, then that issue goes away.
The whole point, yeah,
I'm just struggling with what this backup looks like. I mean, if it isn't a CR,
the
then
exact
what is
same
it?
thing, the exact same thing. It's just that it doesn't have the approval of.
Was it a deed, a deeded covenant?
Yeah, absolutely, right in the bottom, right.
And it
I'll
runs
deed-
through
it
us.
could be-
It's just not-
It wouldn't be,
So
it would
what's the
be a
difference?
deeded restrictions, it would be, pardon me, it'd be a condition and an exhibit attached to the special permit. That's how it would work.
But not recorded against the deed of
Oh,
the
yes, it
property.
would, absolutely, it
It
would be. It would run with title, and we would agree to make it in perpetuity. And if there's a method by which I can do that, and not have to have the town renew any sort of a notice, I'll do it.
Would we,
As a
would we
backup,
still
though.
be grantees? Would this still be a CR?
Well, it
So
can
it's
still be,
because
it can
I'm-
still be you overseeing it, so we still give you the ability to come in and ensure, so you're more, I wouldn't say it's a CR, you're still the custodian, how's that? That's a better term of it, so you have the right of oversight, that's what we would grant you. So that's why I say to you, it'd be identical to that which is contained in the CR, except it'd be pending approval. So I'll give you everything in this document, you have all the same benefits, all the same rights, except that it's not a chapter 184 restriction. That's the difference.
Yeah, the only concern there is, it has to be, from our perspective, it has to be permanent and irrevocable. And that means that Judy's gonna have to tell us it's permanent and irrevocable, because that's beyond our
Your scope, oh yeah.
competency.
As far as I'm concerned, it's permanent and irrevocable. I
Right.
can never, as the grantor, I
Right.
can never, ever, ever
Oh, I
change it.
understand,
It's just
but
the town may have to act to give notice that it needs to renew. But there's also case law that if I do it within the confines of the special permit, and I say that the reason why I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lots is because I need to have so much open space that's passive recreational use, then the only way for me, I can't change it. I have the special permit, I'm done.
especially once you've built it.
Yes,
Because
once I've built it.
Right.
So I'm working with Visual Area to try and figure out case law that can support that position. And again, not because I don't want to do the CR. I have no issue if the conditions set forth in the special permit say that I am obligated to use best efforts best efforts to get the CR approved. Fine with me.
It just seems odd to me, and I'm not, I mean, I'm sure we'll figure out a solution to this, but it just seems odd to me that under these circumstances, we're never gonna get a CR state approval for a CR by November 28th or anything close. The state isn't even gonna open its mail that fast.
No, the state won't, my experience
Well,
has been
they've already got
6 months.
things in the queue. I think there was some
She
announcement.
told me, yeah, when I spoke to her, Ray Green, she said that what she would try to do for me is she has an intern who is a retired partner from Ropes and Gray who does the reviews. He's in France right now though, but if he comes back, she'll give him our CR to review and accelerate. But she presently is doing all the tax credits right now. So her plate is full. She won't open
Right.
it till
February. right.
That's why we
And
have
that's
such a
probably
problem.
very optimistic. Right.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, how long does it take? My experiences have been 6 months. So.
Yeah, so it's not gonna be approved by November 28th. Which-
Unless this man from Ropes and Gray comes back and we have a Hail Mary.
Yeah, but leaving that possibility out of it.
In reality?
It strikes me that in such a situation, how do these things ever close? If what you say is what the bank is going to say,
Mhm.
I'm not.
Every time I've ever done a CR, it's been on property already owned. So every single solitary instance, so the owners already owned it, hadn't had to buy it, so it didn't matter.
maybe that's
Every
Yeah,
situation.
That's the only thing I can
Okay.
think of that's different about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's
I mean,
the
even
answer.
Windover, they owned it.
Yeah,
Um,
you're right.
That's why, so we have
But
a
even
situation
then,
where
even if you
requiring,
own it, if you're borrowing on it, which
But-
you usually are if it's
but
a
they're not
development
borrowing.
situation.
You can't, they wouldn't have begun construction until they had that. Like, I have a CR in Middleton where we got the loan after I recorded the CR. They owned it, we'll wait. And we waited and we got it, then we could close. Because I can't issue a clean zoning opinion with a condition
No,
like that.
of course you can't, I understand that. All right, so where do we go from here?
Well, we haven't even gotten full-size plans
Right.
submitted to us, and
So, right.
haven't consummated the review of the proposed document.
Right, we've got to review the document, we've got to review the plans, we haven't even gotten the plans. So, we'll do that as quickly as we can, but I can't promise you that it's going to be done by November 28th. Let's be realistic here.
So this will be the formal review process. You're not just looking for comments.
Well, I think it's just, if I can answer that, I think it is just comments, because this is non-jurisdictional for us. So all we're doing is telling the planning board what we think. The planning board doesn't have to accept our input, although they've indicated that they will. So yeah, no, it's just comments. It can't be a formal process.
That's what I'm saying, it
Because it's all
cannot be.
non-jurisdictional.
That's why I didn't know.
Well, it's a formal process in
That's the
terms of
point,
us
that's why.
renewing this CR document and possibly attaching our signatures to the signatory.
That's not what I mean. I mean, there's no application pending before us, nor could there be, because they don't need
Right.
our approval.
Right, that's why this is just
Right.
the discussion about the proposed CR.
But eventually, I will have the CR application that I have to fill out, but I can't fill that out till Irene suggested I give her the first draft so that she can come back and then present. Because, you know how it works, if I send it to her, she makes her comments, then she comes back, then I present it to the board and to the,
To
the
us, yeah.
selectmen and to you. You first, then I take it to the selectmen, then, the process is,
This is why it takes so long.
yes. And that's only, of course it is. And it's more procedural than, if you will, substantive.
Yeah.
It's procedural. I mean, what we would love to be able to do is we need to close. And what we would love to be able to get from you are comments on the CR. I only gave you this 11 by 17 pictures. I can leave that. I brought copies to leave with you, and you don't have any you could give them, do you? How many do you have there? Of a full-blown plan? Do you have
Full-size
any?
plans?
These are full sets of the full-size plan.
How many?
That's 3.
Yeah, so I do have full-size sets.
Well,
that I
that
can
would,
give
that
to
would
you.
be good.
And
The
then
sooner
I
we
have-
have them, the sooner we can look at them.
And then I do have the.
If you can.
I thought I didn't leave 2 sets of big ones with you, Brent. I think I did when I dropped them off. No.
No, you said you were gonna bring them tonight.
I thought
She did.
But I thought, you know what? In my mind, I thought I dropped 2 sets with you. I don't know why I didn't. I had them. Remember, Katrina, and I walked away with them.
I think you had everything the night of the planning board meeting.
Oh yeah, after I dropped them all in a puddle.
Yes, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 full-size sets.
Yeah, in fact, you had made that comment that you had them, but then
Who knows what
when you saw
happened?
me, you left
Who
them
knows what
somewhere.
happened? I dropped a whole bunch of stuff in a puddle, so that would have been,
In a puddle?
apropos. Oh, the last week, remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that snowstorm? Yeah, there I was, driving from Middleton. So,
You could have been applying for something in New Jersey.
yeah.
Look at it that
Oh,
way.
good, or Staten Island, even worse.
Yeah.
So if the board could or would entertain giving comments via email to Brent that I could work with, again, I know you can't give me final approval or anything like that, but at least if I could get written approval that goes through Mr. Bazak, and then I'm able to integrate those changes, get them back to you, tell the planning board where we are, and to the extent I can incorporate every one of your changes, trust me, I will.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have changes that, judging by this discussion, I don't think we're gonna have changes that are troublesome to you.
No, I don't think so either.
That would not be my sense.
I have to tell you, I think it's a mutually agreeable plan, number one. Number two, we want to do it.
Right. No, I get it.
So if that would be a possibility, so that at minimum I can give to, and Katrina can confirm, the planning board, look, at this is what we've done, we've been before the Conservation Commission. We recognize the need, though, to have to get this draft back out to the EOA, even after your comments are in. And, I mean, Brent can tell you, they will come back, the thing will be littered with comments, no matter what we do. So it'll
Well, they
still.
like to feel needed.
But you know what, in my experience, if she puts something in that really is unreasonable, you only call them and say, well, what was that for? And they tell you, well, you know, I'm just writing. And to the extent there's a comment you don't understand, they give great feedback. I have no complaints about working with them. But if that would be a possibility, that would be
Well,
wonderful.
yeah, we'll do the best we can. We'll be as responsive as we can be. And since it's not a formal proceeding before us, we can just offer comments. That's actually our only role at this point.
Right, yep.
So, and we will try to do that. We don't, well, the first part of the review is going to be Brent reviewing the plans.
Mhm.
And then I think the commissioners some of us have, and some of us will review the language of the CR, and we can feed that all back to Brent, and he can feed that all back to planning board. It's a process.
It
That's
is,
about all we
absolutely.
can do.
Nope, that's fair. As long as we can get those, that would be wonderful. We would appreciate it. And then we'll continue to work with planning board.
I think it's very helpful that you came to this meeting, because you can report back to the board what the general tenor of the discussion is, and the feeling that you have about how this board looks at this CR in this context, and that's useful for them.
I think maybe in the future, we could probably work on outlining the process to approve a conservation restriction in an OSRD, make it a little clearer. Because there has to be a better way to do it, and more clear for the developer coming in what the process should be. Should it be approved by the Conservation Commission first before applying to the planning board? It would be wonderful if they had an approved conservation restriction, but then what if the planning board wants to make changes?
See, I think Joe would say to that, well, until pretty sure we're going to get planning board approval, it's somewhat expensive generating these things, and getting a CR approved for a development that never goes forward, that doesn't make sense either. So, I mean,
But we could have, started the process with you earlier, which would have been beneficial, and we truly just didn't know how to do it.
yeah, okay. Well, we'll do what we can do.
Okay. Would you like me to leave my beautiful colorized copy?
What do you say?
Does that help?
Is that helpful to you?
I can.
You can
make
color
do-
your own?
I can make do with the two.
Okay.
You can take this. Got my own.
You don't appreciate my handiwork?
It's very nice, actually. It's very helpful.
Wasn't
It was
wasn't
helpful for me.
Wasn't a statement in aesthetic value, it was just the fact
I
that
know.
I got my own highlighters.
I like the color.
So you have,
I can attest to that, Joe.
Yeah, I know. I tried. It was good for me. I got to go through it. So I don't know if you have any other questions for me, or, oop.
I don't. We can, when's our next meeting? Fourth.
December 4th, I believe. We can put this on the agenda for December 4th. I'm not sure we're going to need to have it on our agenda. I don't know where our discussion or the process will be, but we can put it on.
That's fine.
And if we need to talk about it, it's administrative in nature, so we can add it to or take it off our agenda as we wish. But if we need to all meet on December 4th, certainly we'll meet with you.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Good presentation.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, motion to continue with the N1.
Oh, yeah. Motion to continue this to the December 4th hearing? Really isn't. Is there a motion to continue?
Sure.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And again, I'm not sure we need it, given that all we're really doing.
No,
is
but
commenting.
usually we have always had it as an agenda item, even though it's an administrative act. And we have, upon acceptance, we have voted to sign the
Yes.
Conservation Commission signatory page,
Yep.
as well as to attest to the municipal certification that's required in the application to the state, and verify the field inspection of the property for the values that are being expressed as being preserved or protected
Right.
by the CR, and then given a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen
Yeah, absolutely. At that,
Yeah,
at
so-
that stage.
so-
This stage is earlier than that.
So
They
if
got
anybody
there
had called me, I could have told them that
I
that's
know.
what the process was.
I know, I get it.
Just from repetition.
Well, and I think that's what Jill said, was I wish we'd come in sooner. We didn't really know what to do.
What CR was not approved?
Early one, still open, I think.
Early?
No, that's up.
It's closed, it's done.
We respectfully decline to participate in further negotiations with the state on the CR to the Bradstreet Farm property.
Sorry. I should not.
You know, it was a long, sordid story. And that wasn't really a case of turning it down, it was a case of just withdrawing from the process.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's interesting.
Okay. I may return
That brings us to
to
the end of our agenda, so
No,
that
no,
brings
no.
us back to administrative permits and enforcement.
So before we do anything, are we supposed to read this over and submit comments to Brent again?
That would be good, yeah.
And before November 20th?
You already did.
I've got
So
additional
then-
ones now.
Good, yeah.
Fine.
Please send out an email reminder for us to do that, right?
Sure.
Yep.
I shall.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. I had a request in regards to, this is a request for the commission to confirm issuance of an emergency certification for the tree cutting at 232 Weathersfield Street, which is also 230 Weathersfield Street. The issue being that one of the large mature pine trees that's located on the ridge opposite the intermittent stream, directly behind the residence at 230 Weathersfield Street, it has a severely compromised trunk that splits into two main stems about 20 feet up that is 85% hollow. And none of the tree companies contacted by the property owner would risk the health and safety of their employees by sending them up the tree. Therefore, they needed to get a skidder out there in order to leverage the tree, because the predominant weight, when you look at the tree and line things up plumb, the predominant bulk and mass of the tree appears to be leaning towards the dwelling and the stream, which is exactly where they don't want it to go. But they were unwilling to risk the health and safety of sending a climber up the tree, which is what they normally would do, in order to start sectioning it off and dropping it, because it's just supposed to be dropped and laid on the ground. So I went on the property and found an area of the stream that is located on this new lot, 232 Weathersfield Street. And I believe I've given you copies. And so attached to those copies is proposed special conditions that would allow only the single access of one skidder or whatever they term their piece of logging equipment. As long as we found an area that is wide enough for the equipment, it appears to have substantially gravel soils and a very slight depression, only about a 2 or to 4 foot grade drop on the two banks of the stream that could be matted so that there wouldn't be a bunch of disturbance and rutting or collapsing of the stream bank. And you can see I've tried to write conditions in here that they would deal with any ruts as a piece of equipment possibly leaves its mark climbing the ridge to gain access to where this tree is. They will, of course, be able to use this piece of equipment in dropping some of the other trees over there too, in a more controlled manner, but this is basically only for a one-time crossing of the stream, just on a temporary basis. This is really the only way I could figure to do it, since we'd already issued determinations of applicability allowing the tree cutting on both properties, but we didn't understand that in consultation with the tree service, that there would actually be a tree that they wouldn't be able to handle without using a piece of equipment. And this results actually in this is the only route that would have the least amount of impact or intrusion in regulated wetland resource areas.
Because we talked about that, Brent, during the week. Brent talked to me about this when we issued this, and the only other way in without crossing the stream is from the Georgia Lacus property.
And that
to be a
actually
long-
would have traversed more bordering vegetated wetlands with soft organic soils.
And quite a long ways.
And he actually, he was approached
And
by
he didn't want to do it.
property owner, and he didn't want to risk it.
He didn't feel like giving permission for that, and it wouldn't have been, at least as Brent described it, it would have been a much worse approach to the problem. It would have avoided the stream crossing, but it would have done probably more damage overall,
Yeah.
quite a bit. So, it seemed like the only solution to the problem. And we certainly don't want tree companies to put their people at risk, and I don't think they would do it.
And this access route with this piece of equipment would result in very minimal impact to the understory trees or whatever. The only place where the route, I've already marked out the route and marked the crossing area. The only point where this would appear to impact sapling understory trees is where there's a little dense clumping of eastern white pine saplings, which would need to be thinned out anyway. So this won't detrimentally impact the growth in the shrub sapling layer that will probably be released once these trees, the canopy opens up.
So I think, unless anyone has any questions or concerns, we just need to affirm the emergency order, is that the phrase?
Yeah, confirm its issuance, and then I'd ask you to sign underneath my signature.
Presumably, they've already done the work at this point.
No,
Since the start
no,
of the
this
date
is,
was yesterday.
right, well, they haven't done the work yet.
Okay.
They're ready to go.
And more than likely, because of the weather, even if it had been scheduled to start today, it would have been delayed because of the deteriorating weather conditions this morning.
So,
Slipping and
let's
falling
see.
out of a tree isn't a good practice either for your employees.
Really?
So I need a motion to affirm the issuance of the emergency order.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? That passes unanimously. And then, who has the original? This is. We don't have a room. Put that over.
Should I date as well?
Yeah, go ahead, since I did.
Who
Who moved?
moved and seconded?
I moved.
I second.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I messed you guys up. Just sign it. No, I don't know why I put that date in there, but.
Let's make a big X.
It's necessary. You need the space for somebody
That's
else's
the
sign.
problem. I think it took up everybody's spaces there,
The
so
one in
just
cottage,
find somewhere else.
20 feet away
Take
from
from
it.
Jill as a lawyer.
There are 200
Yes,
foot
yes, Middleton.
hemlocks.
Yeah.
200-year-old hemlocks, at least. One is straight up. The other one leans towards the cottage. Both totally healthy. Gotta get get out of this sometime. Question is what boggle would they do it?
All right, what else do we have, Brent?
Well, I guess it's time for me to
Water treatment plant
talk
time?
about the water treatment
Yeah, I was
plant.
telling-
Again, there's photographs on,
Here.
or there's images on both sides of the piece of paper, but we had a frack out.
This was today, right? This afternoon?
Yeah,
Well, that looks messy.
It's not under the
but,
stream, is it?
No, it's not.
no, but very close to the stream. It was like 6 to 8 feet away from the channel of the Mill River
Yeah.
on the floodplain, the emergent floodplain, which of course is now well moisturized because of the
Mm.
rains we've had, whereas before it was all dry. But all the equipment was there on the site as specified. The back truck with the lengths of hose, and he did have a little problem with, tried to use his duct tape to just attach the hand aluminum nozzle to the flexible hose, and of course, as soon as he tried to pull it, it just pulled right off.
So just never mind.
So then he
stuck
just
it in
held
there.
the black flexible hose and just vacuumed it up.
Oh, is that the duct
That's
tape
the
right
duct
there?
tape, looks like.
Yeah, yeah, that's the duct tape, what was left on the hose
So
itself.
where are they in the process? Is this near the end?
They were about halfway across,
This is their first day of drilling though, right?
yes,
Yeah, so it goes fast if it goes.
yeah.
Apparently
Well,
hit
It
me.
went.
And actually, it
It's
didn't go
going
very
up,
fast,
yeah.
because I showed up there this morning to supposedly watch the start of the drilling, and they only went 20 feet and ran into this big boulder 15 feet under the ground, so then they
I knew
had to
it.
bring an excavator over and trench and dig the boulder out. They were trying to figure out whether it was ledge or whether it was boulder. Once they found it was a boulder, they just pulled it out, kept on going, because they didn't want to reposition.
Oh, yeah. No, of course not.
So the boulder caused the frack out?
Well,
Or was that another boulder?
yes, another boulder somewhere underneath the river channel, the Weston and Sampson
Mostly when there's a blowout.
person who's monitoring this, John Sikoria, said that the ground actually shook. He said they felt it when the drill bit hit the boulder, and everything shook, and he believes that what that did was that must have moved the boulder, so it shifted the sediments and caused that weakness.
Right.
So what does that
But
suggest?
where the drilling mud was coming out was
Well, that
eight
it's very,
feet off
very
of
wet
where the
and
actual
very loose.
borehole was.
Okay.
So it found a zone of weakness and it worked its way up.
How deep was the drill at that point, roughly?
You know, I don't know if I actually found that out from them. I can ask, but I believe it was over 8 feet below.
Yeah, if they were halfway, I believe it was supposed to be 8 feet down.
Yeah, 7 or 8 feet, I think was what they had talked about, they were planning
So
for.
what are they gonna do now?
Oh, they kept on drilling.
Yeah.
Right through the
Not much they
boulder?
can do.
For under it?
Well, they may have, they can only shift it a little bit, so they may have shifted its alignment, I think, what did he say, 3 degrees or something? They can bear off 3 degrees, so they may have shifted it to go around the boulder, but they continued on drilling.
So you just were coincidentally there when this happened?
No, I received a phone call because I've been to the site already 2 times.
Who called you?
John Sawyer,
He's with,
Weston and Sampson, he's monitoring. His responsibility is to monitor their operations.
because that was the person I was
Because when I first,
focusing on in our previous comments on.
Right,
Regard
well,
to make sure they monitored
yeah.
this process rather
Initially-
than the subcontractor.
initially they wanted to set up yesterday, and we told them no, well, we told them they couldn't start drilling yesterday because it was a holiday, and, you know, I was concerned that not only was I not on duty to check anything, but also if they needed something off-site, that a supplier might not be open or something, so they were supposed to have come in and set up yesterday, but the only thing they did was drop off the actual drilling rig. So I was told they were gonna be there at 7:30 this morning. I was on site at 7:30 and they hadn't arrived. And as I was leaving at quarter of, they actually were pulling in. So then I got a call back. I asked John to give me a call when they'd actually set up and started doing something. I went back out, that's when they hit the boulder. They'd only gone like 30 feet and they ran into this boulder. They were still up in the buffer zone, you know, not even near our no cut, no disturb area yet, and they ran into the boulder. So then I said, well, call me if something happens. And the next call, unfortunately, was, well, they've had a frack out, so.
So the process worked, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
The notifications.
That's what I said. I said, not only the process worked, but we had all the stuff on the site capable of being instantly mobilized to deal with the issue. And thank goodness it wasn't actually coming up in the river channel.
Right.
Because otherwise the current would have just taken it and spread it everywhere.
Yeah, although even in that situation, having the equipment on site would have really minimized the damage. So.
Well, yeah.
So do they have an estimate on how much material was lost?
No, I haven't even asked them for that yet.
How long did it take them before they realized that the blowout had occurred? Before it reached the surface?
Instantaneous. Well, no. I think, I didn't actually ask them the timing, but I got the impression that when it hit that boulder and shook everything, that then within a minute or so, it showed up.
Yeah, they were probably looking around for something at that point.
In fact, I think one of the photographs I took there, does it show this kind of pancake size thing? Because that's what you see. That's what you see. That's
exactly what you see. That's exactly what you see.
Almost looks like
pancake
batter that's gray colored that's been dropped in the water.
Nasty stuff. It's not good for the animals.
All right, well, good work, Brent. I suppose we can all feel good that we are so particular about these conditions. Not that Weston and Sampson fought us on this at all. They were quite amenable to it and thought it all seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, no, I don't think we asked for anything unreasonable.
Nope, they didn't think so.
I mean, the only thing I said to them, I said, well, you know, you set up a silt fence there, but you didn't bother to tow it in. So I said, you know, you've got the straw wattle in there, and then you've got hay bales, and that is what was actually doing the containment.
You mean around the
frack out? Yeah. Just as a final report, I verified the germination of the restored area at the Glen Mills, or Jewel Mill, excuse me, off of Glen Street. I figured there wasn't flowing water. I figured 2 views were representative of the grass growing on the bank there.
I have a question on another matter.
Yep.
If you're ready to move on.
I'm going to say, unless there's a contrary opinion, I feel that restoration effort is completed.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Where do we stand on the wildlife refuge status thing?
The National Wildlife Refuge.
Oh, I have to compose the letter response requesting specifics. That is on my to-do list.
And to whom you're planning to address that?
To Frank Drakuski, who is the assistant refuge manager, I think. He's the one who's been communicating and...
Might be the manager.
No, Graham Taylor.
No, that's right.
Manager.
Yep.
And doing what? What's the purpose of the letter?
The letter is to request statutory and regulatory specifics as well as the identity and contact information to the, whatever the person was, their regional solicitor, thank you, couldn't remember the terminology. Because again, we received an email that seemed to be full of opinions but no substantiated fact or references.
Thought we were going to also request that the 2 council get together.
Well, that can't happen. I talked, after our last meeting, I talked to DEP's counsel, Dorothy Montoro, I think was her name. And she said that because there hasn't been any official action, nor the commission hasn't taken any enforcement action, nor has the commission made a request to DEP to join or assist the local commission in some type of action against them, that right now, while it's still discussion phase, that I should feel free to copy her on the response and seek her counsel, but not to request that, you know, this regional solicitor call her.
Because then if she responds to that, it ends up being a potentially binding legal opinion of the DEP at that level.
Well, she has to get authorization to put
That's right.
department time into doing something like that.
And to take a department position.
Yeah.
Which she
Right.
doesn't have any of that yet. Just trying to be helpful. So
Right, but they're acting, you know, they're acting as a support and reference, you know,
Right.
to us. I mean, I've been consulting with her in regards to this, so.
I have a suggestion with regard to the letter you're going to write to Ms. Frankfella.
Mhm.
And that is, in addition to asking him for regulatory and statutory authority, that you indicate what our statutory and regulatory authority is, and then to the best of our knowledge that there is no language anywhere else that trumps or supersedes that, and that their inconveniences are irrelevant. Or something to that effect.
Right.
I don't know how-
That actually was sort of what I was going to
Sounds
do.
good.
I was going to lay out, you know, our discussions that we've had with the marine biological lab folks, and that we know that they appear to be what we would call the applicant, while the refuge, which is solely the location, seems to only be functioning as the property owner who would give permission for the activity to take place on their property, but not serving the function of the applicant, which is how they seem to have a confusing view of where they stand in this.
Confusing or deliberately ignoring and taking us in another, trying to take us in another direction, bamboozle us.
Right, well, as well as, it's hard to make a decision if you get into these speculative positions. I mean, it's totally speculative to just say, oh, our hands would be tied if we had to apply to you folks all the time. And it's like, well, that's not how it works. Your document under your Category X exemption said that you were supposed to consult with tribal and local authorities in regards to your activities that you're doing, and that's the first step. You tell somebody what you're proposing to do, and then you find out whether it meets either the definition of an exemption, or if it meets the definition of a regulated activity that needs permitting. That's how we do all things.
Staying compliant.
To just speculate and say, oh geez, anytime we do research, we couldn't be applying to you, is like, well, what is it you're planning to do?
Right.
If you're planning to build wooden platforms with 12-foot aluminum radio towers all over the marsh, then yeah, maybe it does need to be permitted.
But if you're planning to build the same thing in upland, maybe it doesn't. I mean, there's a lot of research that doesn't occur in the wetland.
If my understanding is correct, this is the same outfit that's dumping tons of nitrogen into the marshlands
Are they?
on a regular
Well,
basis. At this point.
as a different experiment, yes.
I don't know about
That was-
tons of.
I don't know about the tons, but yes,
Specified.
they were added
2 or 4
nutrients,
tons.
yeah.
Every 4 days, 2 tons every 4 days was.
Really?
No, it couldn't have been that much, because they have to like bring it by
That's
boat
what
or
the
hand
literature
carry
said.
it.
They have to
Yeah,
carry
yeah.
5-gallon jugs,
Yeah.
buckets.
Go back and read the literature,
But
I'm
it-
not making that statistic.
Oh, I mean,
It was a lot. It was,
Yeah.
I believe there was tonnage, but
And,
Well, Ipswich gave them a permit to do that.
well, that brings up my next question. You were delaying talking to the Ipswich folks because the agent over there had a bereavement situation. And have you
Good.
had the opportunity to talk with them
No.
since our last meeting? That might be something you might want to do too.
Okay, in regards to the nutrient things, or this business with the platform?
Yeah, you're thinking of the platforms, right?
Yeah.
Or, I think it's sort of generally,
I don't think any of
Sure
these
that-
platforms though are in Ipswich.
no, but I think
Something.
Kurt's thought, and my thought would
Switch.
be, these guys are, all three towns, potentially.
Mhm.
And for us all to have the same approach to regulation would be very helpful for them, but also for us.
Well,
So
right,
Make sure that what Ipswich is thinking is their regulatory authority is similar to what we're thinking.
right, right.
Or at least if it isn't, then we'd like to know.
This
that.
current activity though, as far as I know,
Is our
wasn't
town
pro-
only.
wasn't proposed within any area covered by Ipswich.
Right. However, there is one in Newbury. Yeah. I'm almost
Is there
sure.
one of these platforms in Newbury?
There's one of these platforms right next to their farmhouse, right off of Route 1, and I'm sure it's jurisdictional. I don't know that it's in the marsh, but it looks very similar
Out
to
in the backyard on the right as you're facing it?
Yep.
I've seen that thing.
That looks a lot like what we're looking at pictures of.
Oh, wow.
I was wondering what
Might
that
be
was.
some kind of electronic equipment. I don't think it's a platform built in the water.
It's on
Could
Main.
be.
No,
It looks like it's
I know
on
when
there.
I've driven by, they've had a weather monitoring station or something,
Yeah,
but I didn't, well,
that's Newbury, so
yeah.
Where is that?
just the other side of the line, right on Route 1. You know, the old
Next to the
farmhouse that
Parker
they
River.
bought there for their,
The farm.
Well, at least
farm
in our-
stand there, right?
the old farm stand.
Oh,
Used to be a farm
yeah,
stand.
yeah.
Yeah. In our situation, though, the proposal was specifically for activity that is definitely within salt marsh.
Yeah.
Not, not behind any
Like a
structure
wet
or
part of
questionable, I
marsh.
mean,
Under 3 feet of
Upland.
water.
yeah,
We
yeah.
saw
it.
When they have an
Oh,
astronomical
it's
tide,
cold
they boat out to it.
Reachable by boat, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, only. Maybe you could wade to it. All right, anything else, folks?
Don't think so.
I don't believe so.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Is there a second? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Motion is adjourned. I mean, the meeting is adjourned. I'm gonna fix that clock.